Hey guys, this is Kamigunno, and today I'm doing a review for part 2 of the Crisis on Earth X crossover. So let's start talking about this. There's a lot to uncover here and a lot to dissect. So first I want to talk about definitely the best part of all this, which was, sad part, but I think something they did really well, which was, spoiler alert, Professor Stein's death. And, obviously this has been building, if you've been watching Legends of Tomorrow, that something was going to happen to Stein. We knew he was going to leave because Victor Garber was leaving the show, but I didn't expect him to die, actually. But the way they did it, the two actors did such a tremendous job at showing the emotion needed for that scene, and I'm marking it the best death and probably the most emotional scene in any DC TV television show. Really got me moved from that scene, and even the way the people important to him react to it. But, Jax especially being that anchor of these emotions, and Francis just does such a tremendous job in this crossover to convey these emotions. But I also like the moment right after Professor Stein dies, where everyone's just kind of in silence and dealing with their grief in different ways, and I think that was a very realistic approach to death, more than everyone just talking about him. And obviously it was because of time, but I think those scenes were more meaningful than everyone talking about him, And then, the unexpected reactions, I would say, Jax's reaction was expected, and again, so moving. But then you have Mick, Mick who's just drinking his beer because he can't really handle what's happening, and the little tear he has in the funeral. Sarah trying to ignore her emotions, but obviously having them. So the Legends team in general reacting to that death was just so well done, and definitely the best thing that came out of this crossover. Yes, there's a lot of fun in it, but who knew Legends of Tomorrow would be the best part of this crossover? Now moving on to other aspects I really liked. Captain Cold. I'm really happy to say that because I did like Captain Cold in Legends of Tomorrow, but I was never a big Captain Cold fan. I always thought he was a little bit too mustache twirling, a little bit too Batman 66, but here, it works because, he's a hero here, and he's supposed to be mustache twirling. As a villain, a two-dimensional villain, it didn't work out, but as a just one-off kind of character here, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked his relationship with the Ray. I really liked the way they showcased that relationship, and just in general, queer relationships are really well done. Really well done showcase. Really showcased well. Sorry, but also of course, straight couples were showcased very well here too. Like, we'll get into it, but Felicity and Oliver, and Iris and Barry, and that's true diversity. So I really, respected that in this crossover. Now let's start talking about the wedding stuff. So I enjoyed the Iris and Barry wedding because obviously they kind of did the wedding, they just kind of had to officially do it. So I understood that. The Felicity Oliver thing, I'm a little in between with. I don't love that Oliver and Felicity's loved ones didn't get to see it, especially as a Thea fan. I was a little disappointed that Thea was completely left out of the crossover and did not get to see his brother, her brother get married. So I think they're gonna play it off in the finale, though. I guess they're gonna have a little ceremony, hopefully, so people can witness it in the Arrow family. So that was a little disappointing to me, especially because they're playing off the joke, oh, I don't want to get married, I don't want to get married, and then they do. I just didn't love the way they approached that, but I don't mind the ending result. I think it just could have been executed a little bit better. Now, other stuff that happened here. I was a little disappointed that Supergirl wasn't showcased as much as she could have been. She's very sidelined once again in this crossover because she was kind of a pawn to the villain's plot of, her using a heart. Even though she has some good action sequences in the end, she definitely wasn't showcased as much as the other heroes. So I was a little disappointed with that, but something that this crossover did really well, and I think the writers heard the complaints from last year, characters that weren't really showcased or shown in the last crossover really get a real nice time to shine, and that's Iris, Felicity, and Killer Frost, and Alex. Those are the four especially. Alex, I did like the ending result with her and Sarah. Really liked that conversation about Maggie and Nyssa. I like their relationship, even if it's not romantic. I do like their friendship. And then, you know, Felicity and Iris being the ones to save Supergirl, you know, debatably the strongest character in this crossover, I thought was really well, you know, really well done. And using Killer Frost, you know, I feel like Caitlin has always been sidelined, even in the regular Flash television shows. So I'm glad that they're starting to flesh her out a bit more and figuring out what exactly they want to do with Killer Frost. So I was very happy to see that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to discuss with this. Oh, the villains. So, the Nazi villains, I wasn't a huge fan of. I think there's aspects I enjoyed, you know, the whole doppelganger stuff, the whole Oliver doppelganger yelling out for other Kara, the weird relationship they had in a good way, you know, was an interesting twist. And also, I guess, some surprise characters that came out of it, like Wynn in Earth X was cool. Obviously Captain Cold, like I mentioned, so those small surprises, even Diggle reappearing, even though that's off of Earth X storyline I'm talking about, those nice surprises sprinkled throughout the crossover was nice. Now, going back to the Earth X storyline, I just felt like they were... I think they could have just been fleshed out a little bit more. But, you know, I think compared to the Dominators, they did a better job here. But if they had to fix something for the next crossover, I would say the villains. I do think they were a bit of a problem here. But that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think, again, there's so much that goes on during these 2-hour premieres. You know, Arrow I talked about. Legends, I think, the Legends episode was... the one that you could tell was the Legends episode the most. It was interesting that the other three, you couldn't really tell which was a Supergirl episode, which was the Flash. But this you definitely felt was the Legends of Tomorrow episode, because you got the Legends of Tomorrow in it a bit more. And yeah, so you got Legends, you got Arrow, you got Flash, you got Supergirl. I think I covered everything I wanted to discuss. Overall, I did like the crossover a lot. It was a huge improvement from last year, and obviously the first crossover. They really keep improving. They've juggled so many characters nicely here, and this felt like, one thing I really liked about it is that you have to watch this. You know, it's not something that's, oh, here's a fun crossover. It's something that has ramifications for all the shows, really, and I really appreciate that. So it doesn't waste your time at all, but, you know, has a lot of emotion, has a lot of comedy, and it actually utilizes the crossover aspect of these characters interacting with each other and influencing each other's storylines, which I think is the most important aspect to any crossover. So overall, I really enjoyed it, even with the slight nitpicks I had. But let me know in the comments below, what did you think of it? This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.